Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to video review for The Grand Tour, Season 5, Episode 2. So, as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start with the furry, there isn't any. Moving on to the good and bad. So, mostly this review is more of just a public service announcement that, hey, there's a new episode of The Grand Tour. Those of you who have seen it before, you will continue to like it if you continue to watch. If you watched it all the way up until the last episode, you're going to like this episode. If you didn't like it before this, formula hasn't changed. So, yeah, 2 thumbs up, wildly entertaining time. I don't have a special affinity or knowledge about cars, but I enjoy this show. So, yeah, 2 thumbs up. So those of you, there you go, PSA, and those of you have already tuned out. So, for those of you who haven't seen the Grand Tour before, stick around, let me tell you about it. So, the Grand Tour started because Jeremy Clarkson and James May and Richard Hammond, who are the 3 main guys, they used to be on a show called Top Gear. And then there was some disagreement that I think was totally made up, or that, regardless of who said what or who actually did what, I feel like the details are murky, and no charges, I think, have ever been filed. But anywho, some producer or writer or somebody didn't like Jeremy Clarkson, and so he was fired by the BBC after like 20 years of doing this show. So, Richard Hammond and James May had the option of like continuing on for tens of millions of dollars, I think, with the Top Gear with some new hosts that the BBC was going to bring in, or they could go with their friend who had been amazing with them off into the wild, and they made the right choice in my opinion. Because Top Gear, don't get me wrong, I like Mac LeBlanc, but Top Gear format, meh. Grand Tour started, and they originally had a format that was extremely similar to Top Gear. So similar, in fact, that apparently, from what I remember from the trivia, there was like a segment that they were going to do that they actually filmed and had it all ready for the start of the season, and then Top Gear either sent a cease and desist or threatened to sue of some sort because their format of like interviews, having celebrity, doing a racetrack with a regular car, and then like do a bit with showing this awesome sports car, and then doing some nonsense with them, like that whole thing was basically like cookie cutter from Top Gear. And so Top Gear was like, we're gonna sue you for literally copying our show and just calling it, the Grand Tour. So they changed up at least one of the segments to where like, oh, they had a guest celebrity on, but it turns out they died horribly in an accident, but comically, because clearly the celebrity didn't actually die. So that was all fine and good. The show itself was still fun, but I really liked when they changed up the format. I don't remember if it was season 1 or season 2, but basically they had a couple of like long specials where they just kind of followed them, the 3 main hosts, on like some random road trip, and then they had like this cry fest about like, oh, the show's over, like we're done, the show's over, it's changing up. Because they're not doing the like in the tent thing anymore, and they're not having all the like celebrity bullshit and all the like, oh, fast cars or whatever lap. Like nobody gives a fuck about that. And I was so glad they did that, because nobody cares about that. Because I feel like it's been wildly successful since then. Because basically what they do is they just drop these 3 in some random country and are like, hey, you're gonna go from point A to point B in these ridiculous vehicles. Either they're ridiculously cool or they're ridiculously impractical for the trip that they're going on, and then they go through amazing either countryside or villages or cities or whatever. Like they go on a fucking road trip, and they have like a couple of stopovers to have like some, the racing with the fast cars, or like speed races, or like drag races with their ridiculous vehicles. But it's just the 3 of them and their interactions. That's what you tune in for, and that is what makes the show great, because they are ridiculous. I will say that it clearly has the markings of like reality television, where like exact moments aren't necessarily scripted, like the exact dialogue isn't scripted, but there are things that are designed to happen. And like I don't know, like the rose ceremony from The Bachelor, like that's going to happen. And so there are some things that happen here where you're like, well, clearly that person couldn't do that in like a single night all by themselves, especially with the physical capability of that particular person, and have it look that nice. But you don't care, because it's fun, and they go with it, and just these 3 together have the most amazing chemistry. You like James May in Japan was okay, and Richard Hammond on a farm, and like Jeremy Clarkson, like individually they also have their own shows, and they're okay. But the 3 of them together is just unbeatable, amazing hilarity. Like I laughed very largely and out loud in, I think, the first 4 minutes of this episode. So give this show a shot if you've never seen it before. I don't care if you care about cars. I still think you'll have a good time with this show. This episode continues with the awesomeness. It's not any better or any worse than the other episodes for the past seasons. It's just awesome as usual. So give it a shot. 2 thumbs up. That's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.